Hi everyone, it's me, Teacher Angel, and I will be your math teacher for today. Our topic for today is standard deviation and variance. So if you have problems in solving for the variance and the standard deviation, don't worry, I will be here to discuss you today. Starting off, we have the variance. So the formula in getting the variance is the one that is shown on the screen, which is the summation of I equals to 1 to n of the quantity of xi minus u squared over n, where u is the population mean and it is calculated using the formula the summation of xi, where your I starts from 1 to n, over n, which is our population size. In simple terms, you also call this one or consider this one as the average, where we add all the data given and divide it with the total population or the total number of data that was given. So going back to variance, again, U is the population mean and N is the population size. So to understand this better, let's have a sample problem. A marketing research consultant conducted a survey of 20 persons who used to visit fast food chains in one morning. The age of the persons was recorded to the nearest year as follows. We have 16, 29, 44, 36, 40, 24, 28, 47, 34, 46, 35, 26, 50, 33, 38, 19, 22, 53, 44, and 55. Today, I will be giving you a technique how to find the variance easily. First is we will identify our x sub I. So our I is the order of our data given. So for example here, we have our x sub 1, which is 16 because that's the first in order. So our I will tell us the order of that specific value in our given problem. The x sub i's are used to get our population mean or the average before we solve for the variance, and this will also be our basis when we solve already for the variance. To enumerate our x sub i's, we have our x sub 1, the first in order, which is 16. So the orange label or the orange colored text are your x sub i's or our x sub i's. So first is 16, then our x sub 2 is 29, our x sub 3 is 44, our x sub 4 is 36, our x sub 5 is 40, our x sub 6 is 24, our x sub 7 is 28, x sub 8 is 47, x sub 9 34, x sub 10 is 46, x sub 11 is 35, x sub 12 is 26, x sub 13 is 50, and x sub 14 is 33, then x sub 15 is 38, x sub 16 is 19, x sub 17 is 22, x sub 18 is 53, x sub 19 is 44, and then our x sub 20 is 55. So we will know our population size or our big letter N just by looking at the last I in our given or our x sub I, which is 20. So which means we have 20 persons in this sample problem, which is our sample size or the big letter N. That we already have our x sub I. So first is we will find or we will solve the population mean or our average before we solve for the variance. Remember that our population mean is represented as U. So this is the summation of our x sub i's, which is our I from 1 to 20. So our population size is 20, or the total number of data we have is 20. So we solve this one, our x sub 1 plus x sub 2 plus x sub 3 up to our x sub 20. Now, it will be easier for us to solve already for the population mean or the average since we already labeled each number or each data according to their x sub I. So the x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3 up to the x sub 20. So all we have to do is just to substitute those values here in the formula. You can see on the screen that we substitute our x sub 1 up until our x sub 20 divided by our population size, which is the big letter N, equals to 20. So this is how easy it is if you already labeled your x sub i's. Now, let's get the summation of our x sub i's, or the total of our x sub I, starting from 16 to 55. So all in all, that is 719 divided by our population size, which is 20. Now, to get the value of our population mean, so we just have to divide 719 and 20. So that is 35.95. So this is our population mean, which we will be using in getting our variance later on. On the right side of your screen, you can see n is equals to 20, which is our population size, and u is equals to 35.95, which is our population mean, which we solved earlier. So these are the values that we will be substituting, or we will be using in solving for our variance in the formula. Now, let's solve for the variance of the sample problem, and the symbol for variance is shown beside the word. So the formula is the summation of the square of xi minus u, which is our population mean, over the population size, which is represented as the big letter N. Now, you may be asking, what do we mean by summation of xi minus u squared? So this means that we will be substituting each of our x sub I, starting from x sub 1 to our population mean, which is 35.95. So we will substitute each x sub I to our u. So starting from x sub 1 and then last to x sub 20. To understand it better, let's look at this step. So on the second one, you can see the orange labels are our x sub I, and then our yellow labeled text is our u. So we are just using the same value of u, we just change each xi. So starting from x sub 1, so that is 16 minus 35.95, then you square the difference, plus then moving on to our x sub 2, which is 29 minus 35.95, and then you square the difference as well, plus the x sub 3, which is 44, then subtract it to our u, then you square the difference, and moving on up until the x sub 20. So this is what we mean when we find the summation of the difference of the square of our x sub I and u. So we are adding each time we subtract our x sub I, starting from x sub 1 to x sub 20. Then you square the difference. Next is we will be simplifying each of the quantity. So that is starting from 16 minus 35.95, which is negative 19.95. Then you square it, plus the next quantity, 29 minus 35.95. Then you square, plus the next one, which is 44 minus 35.95, which is 8.05, then you square it, and so on up until you will reach the x sub 20, or the last quantity in the numerator. So we will be squaring all of the difference in each quantity. After we're done getting the difference of each xi minus u, so we will be squaring each difference. So starting from negative 19.95 square, so always remember that when we square a negative number, the answer is always positive. So negative 19.95 square is equals to 398.0025 plus negative 6.95 square, which is 48.3025, plus 8.05 square, which is 64.8025, and so on up until you reach to 19.05 square, which is 362.9025. So those are the squares of each difference of xi minus u. Now that we already have the squares of each difference of xi minus u, so we will be adding them all to find its sum or total. So that's starting from 398.0025 up until 362.9025. So you can use any calculator you have so you can find its total. So the total for this one is 2,470.95, and that's divided by our population size, which is 20. Now that we already have the sum of the squares of the difference of xi and u, which is 2,470.95, so we will divide it with our population size, which is 20, to find our variance. Our variance, everyone, is 123.5475. So that's how easy it is, everyone, to solve for the variance, as long as that you labeled your x sub i's first before you find your population mean and also your variance. Next in line is we have our standard deviation with its symbol beside it. So its formula is just the square root of our variance. So the formula inside the square root is just the formula in getting the variance. So we will just square root our variance to get our standard deviation. So that's why it needs for us to familiarize how to solve for the variance for us to get the standard deviation. So from our sample problems, we already solved the variance, which is equals to 123.5475. So to get the standard deviation, all we have to do is just to extract square root to both sides from the symbol of the variance to the value of the variance, which is 123.5475, to get the standard deviation. So upon solving or using calculator, so the square root of the variance is just the standard deviation, and the square root of 123.5475 is equals to 11.1152. So if you are required to have two decimal places, you can have the standard deviation round off to 11.12. So that's how easy it is, everyone, to find the standard deviation. As long as that you know how to solve the variance, then it will be very easy for you to find the standard deviation as well. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have comments or next lesson that you want me to have a tutorial, you can comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Thank you, and see you on my next math tutorial video.